Hello everyone, this is Jaycel Apon from BSE 301A. This is all about the Tajikistan and Kazakhstan's background with their literature. Hi, welcome to Tajikistan. It is a country lying in the heart of Central Asia. It is bordered by Kyrgyzstan on the north, China on the east, Afghanistan on the south, and Uzbekistan on the west and northwest. Tajikistan encompasses the smallest amount of land among the 5 Central Asian states, but in terms of elevation, it surpasses them all, enclosing more and higher mountains than any other country in the region. More than 9/10 of Tajikistan's territory is mountainous. Tajikistan was a constituent republic of the Soviet Union from 1929 until its independence in 1991. The disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991 led to the somewhat reluctant declaration of full independence on September 9, 1991. Once independence was achieved, communists fought to retain power in the face of opposition from an alliance of Islamic and democratic forces. The presidential election of November 1991 was won by Tajikistan's former communist strongman Rahman Nobiev. And in March 1992, massive non-violent demonstrations protesting his dismissal of opposition's elements began in Dushanbe. Dushanbe is the capital of Tajikistan. Tajikistan's economy depends on agricultural and services, which each employ more than 2/5 of the labor force. The civil war that followed Tajikistan's independence had a devastating impact on agriculture and industry in the republic. Tajikistan possesses rich mineral deposits. Tajikistan is among the countries with the greatest potential of hydroelectric power in the world, and most of the electric power generated in Tajikistan is hydroelectric. Some of the fast-flowing mountain streams have been exploited as hydroelectric power sources. Tajikistan is home to a melting pot of cultures, ethnicities, and religions. There is an assortment of languages spoken in Tajikistan. The official language of Tajikistan is Tajik.
به تو هجم ای زبانی مادری هستیم سرهستیم داراییم زیب و فرام درود بر شما عزیزان دید همان طوری که آگاه
However, Russian, English, and the Pamiri are also spoken here. The interesting about the people of Tajikistan is that the large majority of the population is impressively multilingual. They speak a mixture of languages for different purposes. One may be spoken informally at home, while another may be used for formal or business matters. As interesting as their history is their food. Tajik cuisine is a traditional cuisine of Tajikistan. While it has similarities with Russian, Afghan, and Uzbek cuisines, it is something entirely of its own. Food is a huge part of Tajikistan culture, and eating amongst the locals is one of the best ways to immerse yourself in this authentic country. Whether you eat out of a restaurant or indulge in a home-cooked meal in a local homestay, you will find some of the tastiest food and drink in Tajikistan. The national dish of Tajikistan is called Oshi Palov or Osh. It is made up of cubes of meat, onions, carrots, and served with yellow rice. This typical Tajik meal is served on a single plate on the center of a communal table, and it is eaten with your bare hands. Another typical Tajik dish called kurtog is presented the same way, but it is a meat-free dish made with salty cheese poured over flatbread and topped with onions and fried vegetables. When it comes to their religion, the vast majority of Tajikistanis are Muslim. The Christian population has been largely Russian, but since most ethnic Russians have left the country since the disintegration of the Soviet Union, Muslim became the dominant religion of the country Tajikistan. Now let's move on to their literature. Tajik literature and its history is bound up with the standardization of the Tajik language. Tajik literary centers includes the cities of Bukhara and Samarkand. During the Soviet era, the principal literary output was socialist realism in nature. Three writers dominated the first generation of Soviet Tajik literature: Sadreddin Aini, writer and educator who turned communist, began as a poet but wrote primarily prose in the Soviet era. His works include three major novels dealing with social issues in the region and memoirs that depict life. Aini became the first president of Tajikistan's Academy of Science. Abul Qasim Lahuti was an Iranian poet who immigrated to the Soviet Union for political reasons and eventually settled in Tajikistan. He wrote both lyric poetry and socialist realist verse. Another poet was Mirzo Tursunzoda, called Tajik oral literature, wrote poetry of his own about social change in Tajikistan, and turned out various works on popular political themes of the moment. Since the generation that included those three writers, Tajikistan has produced numerous poets, novelists, short story writers, and playwrights. Writers from this region have made notable contributions to literature since the 10th century, and the vigorous folk literature continues. Tajiks consider the Shah Namehor, the Book of King in English, to be the national epic. It is a Persian long epic poem. A number of Tajik poets and novelists achieved fame during the 20th century. They included Abdal Rauf Fitrat, whose dialogues Munazara and Kayamat have been reprinted many times in Tajik, Russian, and Uzbek. Both Fitrat and Aini were bilingual, writing in Uzbek and Tajik. A number of female writers, notably the popular poet Gulrukh Sor Safieva, circulated their work in newspapers, magazines, and most importantly, the Tajik language collections. Tajikistan is one of the fascinating countries here in Central Asia. It's history and its culture that makes it more fascinating. Again, this is the Tajikistan country, and thank you so much for visiting. Hi, welcome to Kazakhstan, the country that enclosed by the northwest and north by Russia, on the east by China, and on the south by Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, the Aral Sea, and Turkmenistan. Kazakhstan is the largest country in Central Asia and the ninth largest in the world without an ocean port. Kazakhstan is ruled by only one president since its independence in 1991. Nur Sultan was shockingly ruled the country for 30 years, so their monuments, museum, and buildings were only built in 1997.
Көш кіргел көр, күлкел көл, кілең қысқа сөз кім оқиды тез? Арқада алтарқар бар, қырқада қырғарқар бар, қырғарқарда алтарқар бар, алтарқарда марқарқар бар. Әбдіреде әбігер әтеш отыр, әбігер әтеш отырған әбдірені әжем ашып отыр. Гүлім гүлге қарап күлімдеді, көгілдір гүлге қонған.
That's right, that is the Kazakhstan language. During the Soviet years, Russian language, Russian culture, and the power in Moscow took very prominent places in Kazakhstan. That's why most people in the cities can speak Russian. But the official language of Kazakhstan is Kazakh, a Turkic language closely related to Uzbek, Kyrgyz, Turkmen, and Turkish. Most people in this country tend to use Russian as language, whereas only country people tend to speak Kazakh. English is usually spoken only those involved in tourism. Kindly listen to this short conversation in Kazakh language.
Kazakh language with Жаннұр арнасына қош келдіңіздер. Бүгін біз қазақ тіліндегі сұрақтар мен олар.
When it comes to their religion, Kazakhs are Muslim people by history. Their devotion to Islam remained informal during much of their long nomadic period. When they moved into settlements or sent their children to towns such as Sterlitemak or Bukhara for an education, that situation changed. There, young Kazakhs entered mostly maktabs and madrasas where religion is the main subject. When the Soviet Union took over in the early 1920s, authorities suppressed or discouraged religious life in Kazakhstan until the Soviet Union disintegrated since independence, December 16, 1991. Kazakhs generally have enjoyed freedom of religion, and even after 70 years of Soviet atheism, they incorporate Islamic symbols in their everyday life. The traditionally Muslim star and crescent can be widely seen, as can small Muslim caps and some traditional Muslim robes and headscarves in the villages. In their culture, part of it, probably the horses. Kazakhs love horses so much, riding them for transportation in the villages, using them for farming, racing them for fun, and even eating them for celebrations. Many Kazakhs own horses and keep pictures of them in their houses or offices, just like how we love our dogs, except we don't eat our dogs. Kazakhs are also very proud of their mountains, rare animals such as snow leopards, eagles, falcons, and large eagles even appear on their Kazakh flag under a rising sun. And of course, their national instrument, which is the dombra. Kazakhs are very hospitable people. When greeting a guest, the host gives him or her both hands as if showing that he or she is unarmed. A very structured and uniform educational system also exists in Kazakhstan. All ethnicities, whether urban or rural, study a similar curriculum. Thus, students throughout the country share the same education. When it comes to their food, majority of Kazakh cuisine is tortulik mal. They are also famous in their 4 kinds of meat: the horses, camels, cows, and sheep. Horse meat is the main festive meat, while sheep's meat is used as a common meat. Camel meat is also kind of festive meat, but not the main. Cow's meat is also kind of common meat. When it comes to their resources, Kazakhstan's main export commodities include oil and natural gas, various metals, and chemicals. Its primary export destinations are Italy, China, the Netherlands, and Russia. Imports include machinery, metal and chemical products, and foodstuffs. Russia and China are its main resource of imports. Now let's move on to the most important part of this video, the Kazakhstan literature. Kazakhstan has a rich and diverse literature that offers an insight into its people and culture, the last landscape, folk traditions, and the people's nomadic roots all run deep through the nation's heritage. This collection of prose and poetry pieces embody Kazakh's identity and history, and presents a nation that is connected to its past and strives for the future. Kazakhs have a rich literary heritage, as there were many illiterates. Folk literature handed down orally was quite developed, and it includes myths, legends, folk stories, narrative poems, long love poetry, ballads, and proverbs. among which long poetry is especially outstanding. There are more than 200 Kazakh long poems. Akens have made great efforts to collect, study, and recreate. Many outstanding Kazakh classic and contemporary works have been published in the Kazakh language. Because of the Kazakhs' nomadic lifestyle and their lack of a written language until the mid-19th century, their literary tradition relies upon oral histories. These histories were memorized and recited by the Akim, the elder responsible for the remembering the legends and histories, and by Jaycel, the lyric poets who traveled with the high-placed clans. Most of the legends concern the activities of a batir, or hero warrior. A popular Kazakh fable is about also a mythical bird, Samruk, which lays a golden egg each year in a popular tree. One of the famous authors and poet in Kazakhstan is Abay Konanbelev. He was a poet, composer, and philosopher. He was also a cultural reformer towards European and Russian cultures on the basis of enlightened Islam. One of his famous works is A Book of Words, a marvelous book full of life, wisdom, emotional confusion, and irrefutable truth from a great thinker, philosopher, poet, and illuminator of the Kazakh Central Asian culture in 19th century. Several factors that are unique to Kazakhstan is its land and its history that unite its people. Kazakhstanis are proud of the nation's abundant natural resources, agricultural potential, and natural beauty. They are also united in their shared history as a neglected republic during the Soviet years.